Call committee meeting to order. Bush, please call roll.
Burgess.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Myers. Clausen.
Here.
Washington. Williams. Here.
All right, move to item number 2, Independence Day celebration. I'm sorry, Independence Celebration fireworks. Trustee Clausen.
Okay, you should have all gotten a copy of the contract that was given for the Mad Bombers. It's like the same contract that we had last year with the same prices. There are absolutely no changes. Okay, and just kind of give everybody a knowledge, a heads up that I have approximately $1,200 raised already. So $5,000 So I presented it to the board for their approval, so we can sign it and lock it into place. Approximately 12 by 1168, something like that.
Same contract as that?
Exact same contract as last year, except for the date change.
This is a $5,000 for fireworks. Fireworks display will be held on the Saturday after the 4th of July, so it looks like it's the 5th.
Okay, yes.
You know we have approximately almost $1,200. Again, having the fireworks this year, we want to make sure that we try to bring in donations and pay for everything as much as possible. I know Trustee Poskin and his committee and other volunteers have been going out and doing their best to get donations and things like that. So, but the board, Trustee Myers.
John, you want, had a contract for the maximum size shell that was 2 to 3 amp, right?
I believe so. It's all right there for you.
Well, actually, they brought bigger one, didn't they? By accident,
I think they had a few bigger ones last year.
because we had moved the crowd back further.
We had about 4 or 5 of the big ones there. But so far, everything here is 3 amp. We've been on,
On the last page, it does say 4 inches on the last page.
yeah, there's a couple.
Three pictures.
It's all from the sheet. That has to look at this thing. And we should get a copy of all the insurance companies. Okay.
Can you guys use the microphones, please?
That was no problem getting their copy of the insurance and everything, so I can call, get the request again. If I can cooperate, if you just get with me, I'll make sure I get what you need there.
Anyone else have any questions about this? I know we don't have the 5,000 yet, but it's important that we get this signed so we can start engineering this moving forward. Does the board have a problem with this being on the agenda next week?
Are we doing a parade?
Yes, the parade and everything else it will be exactly like last year.
Okay.
The parade, the festival, I've already visited several businesses in the area, trying to get donations, getting them information on how to get floats and stuff into the parade, so I've been working pretty hard at it. I'm also, I was gonna do this later, but Friday we'll have another collection on the corner of Sauk and Lawrence, to try to raise some more money, so, I need volunteers for that, by the way. So anybody would be interested in volunteering, being out at 7 o'clock this morning at Walgreens or Dunkin' Donuts, I could really use the help.
Any other questions? All right, so I have this on the agenda for, is that right? Everyone okay with the consent agenda for this one? Okay. Consent agenda. All right. Move to item number 3, an ordinance approving the execution of a letter to support for Sauk Village Beautification Committee garage sale. I have a letter, I just want to make sure it's okay with the board, and we got the ordinance. Should be in front of you, right? Garage sale, same thing that they've done in the past on the corner of Coronel, between Coronel and Prairie, along South Trail. They across the street from Subway and Tony's and Do It Best. Right across the street.
I just have a question. This, I think it next to the last page, is temporary use permit, $15. This temporary use permit, is it only going to be good for the designated garage sale time, or is it going to be somebody wanted to have a garage sale. This is part of your.
This one right here.
Oh, okay, so this is something that,
You got this one right here?
this is just for the, unless you're gonna just want to. Okay.
On the back is the letter to, IDOT, from the mayor's office. And then the ordinance. Anyone have any questions about this? All right, so consent agenda, that's okay with everyone, or next Tuesday night? All right. Number 4, resolution authorizing the execution of a law enforcement mutual aid agreement and the existence of a formulation of the Illinois law enforcement alarm system by intergovernmental cooperation. Chief. If you don't use the mic, then you have to something like that.
Test 1, 2.
Go ahead.
Just very briefly, the resolution that we're looking for, the Illinois law enforcement alarm system, commonly known as IDS around the state. We belong to it for pretty much as long as it's been in existence, probably 15, 20 years. There is already an existing mutual aid agreement between something like 900 communities or more. However, they've made some updates and along with the changing time and changing laws. Excuse me. They found the need to send out a so, and basically what IDS is, it's an organization that's comprised of hundreds of law enforcement agencies throughout the state of Illinois. And those agencies combine together to form an emergency alarm system. So if we were to have a natural disaster, a terrorist act, a civil disturbance, things along that line, we would have the opportunity to put in an alarm, so to speak, and IDS would respond with literally hundreds of law enforcement officers. So whether it was prevent civil unrest, whatever it may be, it's a very unique organization. We have two members, two officers that are current members of the mobile field force, they call it MFF. And what the mobile field force is, it's completely supplemented by the Department of Homeland Security. So every member of the unit was provided with equipment that was at no cost to any town or village or city. And they pretty much handle whatever SWAT doesn't handle. Like I said, civil disturbances, law enforcement during a natural disaster, or whatever it may be. It's beneficial to all of us, quite naturally. We can put a request in and get 4 or 5 police officers.
Trustee Burns.
Yeah, Chief, I just wanted to find out, I think a couple of years ago, was this something that was basically what you're talking about happened when we, I guess, someone pressed about that you did at the time, you did that chief, all those officers came out here, they flooded the village. Is that basically what you're talking about?
No, it's a little bit different than that. That's more of a street unit that was out here. This is kind of behind the scenes,
Is there any cost there? You just asked them to be part of this. That's basically what you're saying.
What I'm sorry.
this particular ordinance that you're asking for, you're just asking the village to be part of this again, that they,
Yeah, what they did is, Elias had sent out, Elias just, like I said, they sent out the new revised mutual aid agreement, and along with that, you know,
I'm just asking for a quick summary. No, I didn't say I didn't get it. I was asking for a quick summary. I'm just saying there's no cost, just basically a membership that we belong to, that we've been belonging to for quite a while.
yes,
That's all you're just asking us to renew that, basically.
yes. And what they asked is that along with the mutual aid, the resolution.
Okay.
We're asking every municipality to do the resolution to show their support of the organization.
Thank you, that's what I was asking. But I did think that, I think it was a couple of years ago, when we had 100 police officers that came out on the north side, and I thought that was part of that, what you said was.
Well, I think what it may have been referred to that missing person at that time, I think that had been,
Oh, it was disturbing, it was very disturbing. Yeah, he was very disturbing, and,
Yeah, it was just,
from out of town and everywhere.
yeah,
Helicopters and stuff, so.
yeah, I mean, it's,
That's about 2 years ago. So that's about.
that's a normal,
That's normal.
yeah, that's our normal, without street name.
Okay.
They come running from everywhere. All you gotta say is officer needs assistance.
These guys are, the guys that are in the mobile field force, they're, you know, paramilitary.
That was pretty impressive when that happened. I mean, that was pretty impressive. They locked down the whole area.
Which is,
Any other questions about the resolution? Yes, Justin.
Chief, I mean, this is standard, just like the emergency services, Davis, I mean, everything here is still the same. Just for record, when we send officers out to assist, that cost is on the village. When we have an incident and we bring in said 100 officers, there is no cost to the village, right?
and we have, and just so you know, we have, these fellows have been sent to, Hurricane Katrina, have been sent to tornado, yeah, there's a request, you know, from all over the country for the mobile field forces. And it's just not something that's in Illinois, it is another state law.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Is it okay for a consent agenda for this? All right, so I have something, consent agenda for this, Head Chief. Moves item number 5, review garage sale fees. Trustee Myers?
Okay, I've had a couple of residents,
You might need to read.
however, though, I think there's been a lot more approached village clerk, not mine. I would like to first speak on this matter, specifically, because there's been several there. I can confirm.
Since it is garage sale season, and many people have been asking what's the most updated, fees on garage sales. At one point, we had a $50 fee per garage sale, and that was a little excessive. So this board did at one point bring that fee down to $15 with a requirement of only 2 garage sale permits per year. So that does nothing to do with what the beautification committee is doing, that's totally separate. That does not apply to the 2 that each person is allowed to have. So when you go to the beautification committee, you're gonna have 2 yourself. 3 now? Okay. The beautification committee.
No, it says 3 in the ordinance.
Oh, Sherry said 2. Does it say 3? She told me specifically 2, but
I think
if it says
so.
3 in there, we have to go according to what's in there.
It says 3.
Okay, because she just called me, I was out of town this week, she called me, and told me it's 2.
It's no more than 3 consecutive days.
Oh, no more than 3 consecutive days, at no more than 3 such sales. in a 12-month period. Thank you for bringing that up, because she did tell me too, but we're gonna say that again. No more than 3 consecutive days, 3 times within a 12-month period, for $15 permit. Just to get that on record so people know, that the current garage sale fee is.
Any other questions?
That's the only one that there was concern about.
Okay. Trustee Martin?
No.
Anyways, I have a couple concerns from residents that come to me. In the ordinance, it basically says that for signage, you cannot have a direct sale sign in the boulevard on 223rd. You can't put it on public right of way. It has to be on somebody's private property. A lot of residents have issues with that because they live on a dead end street. They have no way of really telling people to come down to that. So I don't know if that's something that we can change. We word the ordinance. Basically, it says something like if they do put them up, they must take them down, and if they don't, then you can be penalized. But I mean, residents that are doing these garage sales, they need to be able to advertise them on our main streets. And taking that privilege away from them makes it that much difficult for a resident to sell it.
Again, I understand this ordinance was passed back in 2011. There was look at temporary signs, and again, you're using temporary signage for garage sale, but there's other uses for temporary signs. It could be yard sale, garage sale, medical signs, anything like that are temporary signs. So, again, having temporary signs on public parkways, again, we've taken everything down, temporary signs from, there's an open house, things like that. So, again, that comes with, number one, they can do the advertising in the newspapers. Second, you can work with your neighbors, especially the ones on the corners, and ask if it's okay if you leave a sign saying, go down the street for a garage sale today, as long as it's in their yard, and it's not on the public parkways. But if it's something that the board really feels that's something we need to relook at, I mean, we can turn it back over to the ordinance review committee to review it again. But again, when you think about temporary signs, there's a broad, there's more than just yard sale signs, garage sale signs.
Well, I mean, is there a way we can actually put that in words? In a contract or in the ordinance, it basically says that, for yard sale, garage sale signs, or whatever the case may be. Like I said, I mean, when people drive through your town, they might be just driving through, just looking for it. They don't have a paper, they're just looking through, and they're just driving around. And if you don't know your neighbor, like where I live, I'm on a dead end. And if I have one, I have to contact the neighbor that's all the way up on 223rd Street, and if they don't know me, they're like, I don't know you, who are you? And they don't want to do that. So I personally would like to have it turned back over to the board.
I think I have no problem with the ordinance review committee, but just remember we have to be careful about, we don't say this temporary sign can be up, but this temporary sign cannot be. Again, that's why when we went to temporary signs, it covered the whole entire broad amount of temporary signage. Again, our businesses put up sometimes temporary signage. There's a lot to think about when you just think of temporary signage. I mean, if the board wants to go back to the ordinance review committee, we'll send back. I got 2 head shaking.
Yes,
3.
I mean, I don't mind, I just know when we looked at it before, that we did go through a lot of discussion and where things should go versus where they wouldn't go. One of the things that I just remember from the conversation is the temporary signs, when they're on private property, people have a tendency to, A, remember the location, and B, remove that property. When they're in a public, especially 223rd, I mean, people used to put signs there all the time, and they would just stay. And it became cluttered, which is not the look we want for Sauk. So that was one of the things that I know that, was discussed before, but, you know, with the proper verbiage, I mean, I think it's something that we can review. I just know that that's kind of why, at least remember discussing it.
Well, let's send back to, Board Review Committee. You can review it with your committee. Again, see what some of the towns are doing, things like that.
One of the other conversations back then was our director of public works said that doing a lot of damage to equipment. The signs were left there, the wires are still in the ground, everything. More did it. Next thing you know, now they got top one, they got to take it half apart and do the wire. I can put back in there, but if people leave their signs out there, we got enough problems keeping it, trying to keep this town clean. So now we're going to let them leave it out there for 2 or 3 days, then we're going to have to go with start cycling again. But I mean, I can have the talk to the committee and see which way they want to go with it. But you got pros and cons in both ways. The residents will give me a call and let me know which way, and I can bring it up to the committee. We can talk about it. But there was a couple incidents that happened where people got injured from some of the wires. More of some of our equipment got damaged, and they left it there for days and days and days after that. So I can reward it back in there for you guys to take a look at it and put it up. But I have a committee meeting coming up. I'll discuss it.
Well, the ordinance stays as is until the West Review Committee brings us something back to the board to review. Did you have something?
Yes, I did. As you can see, I think it's section 3, it says, as amended. This 15.8 temporary sign was amended to say that after 3 days, it would be removed and not fined. I'm looking at that and saying, because the reason that we did do this is because of the political sign. They were all, yes, political sign. They were all over the village, and after 3 days, some people just left them up there. So we fined them, we fined people. But if you're gonna, how can you fine a person for having a sign on their, a temporary sign? It doesn't say that it's a temporary garage sign, it says a temporary sign on someone's private property after 3 days. I was thought that this would say after 3 days after the sale, if it was anywhere but on that property, that person would be fined. Because you have for sale signs that stay up forever, and that's on the private property, and that's a temporary sign. So how do you want to distinguish the difference between that and a person having a garage sale on private property? That's on private property.
We're talking about public right away.
No, I'm talking about right. If it's on private property, how are you going to find a person? That's if you can find all the people that have a military sign. So that's a temporary sign. So I was led to believe that if it's a temporary sign in a public way, which would be on the parkway or whatever, that sign not really within 3 days, and that person would be fined. And that's what I was looking at. That's what I remember back when we did that. And it was done for a certain reason. But now you're saying that even a sign in someone's yard that says I'm having a garage sale Sunday, and he still got it up there Wednesday, but they're going to be fined 20 or 15 or whatever, fined $25. You know, I mean, that's what it says. It says after 3 days after the event, after the sale, you get a $25 fine. You sell that. And the only way you can put up, what you're saying, the only way you can put up a garage sale sign is on private property.
No, that's what it says here.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what it says here.
That's why I'm asking.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get a clarification because now you're going to find, if that's the case, then if you're going to find someone having a temporary sign on their yard after 3 days, then you got a lot of other signs that are there, like garage sales. Because it doesn't say garage sale.
Right, that's why I said in the verbiage.
It just says temporary. So you have to kind of look at that.
Verbiage we have to say.
I mean, it doesn't say garage sale, it just says temporary sign. Real estate sign is a temporary sign.
Well, 15.8.6, it does say temporary garage sign, sale sign. And again, I think if you remember right, going back to 2011, there were individuals throughout the village that were having garage sales the entire summer. And they were putting garage sale signs everywhere, and they would leave them up
Right.
all summer.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Now, but see, That's if they're of the spots, I can understand that. But if that person's sign is in their yard all summer. Now you're saying that we're gonna find it after the day. That's very nice.
Trustee, question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't they have to pay a fee to have the garage sale?
$15.
$15. Okay, so then what do they pay the fee? Here in the village hall? I mean, could something be put in place, maybe like where you have to pay the $15 for the fee, and on that same form, they can know that they're be allowed to put 2 signs on a main street, but they have to pay a $10 deposit, they get the $10 deposit back after they, just the garage signs, after we know that they pulled the signs up.
Well, a long time ago, I don't remember just and, we did this. We had to come in for political signs, we had to sign a piece of paper. And $50 deposit, right?
$50 deposit.
It said that you had to pick up your signs within 2 weeks, was it? Was it a week? Was it some period of days, but you had to go $50 deposit. And then you had to come pick up your signs, and if you didn't pick up your signs within that time or whatever, then your deposit was not getting back to you.
Right.
So I don't know if we are taking the wheel that was once invented and now we're changing it, we're trying to go back to that wheel. I'm not sure. It's something that I think if we're gonna take it to the ordinance review committee, maybe just kind of looking at some of the things that we've already done in the past, because that type of situation we have done before. I don't know if there were any problems with it, about people not picking up their signs, not that I can recall. I just know that the year that we talked about it was right after an election year, and it was ridiculous on 223rd. It just looked.
That's why we stopped.
Well, that's why I was just asking if maybe there could be some kind of accountability, when people could come in, they could pay their fee to have the signs put out, but they have to pay a deposit, something really minimal, like $10, maybe $15. When they come back in and they show that they put their signs up, they sign, we did put the signs up, or whatever process the ordinance committee want to put in place, then they will be able to get their deposit back, just something to try to curtail, that they don't just leave them out there, but then they will come back and get them.
Anything else? All right, back to yours, what do you think?
I will add this up, and next committee meeting, have you guys, the comment from the committee?
All right, thank you very much. Move to review of parking recreational vehicles in driveways. Trustee Myers.
Okay. As we all were, last meeting, we had several residents, I think there was about 7 of them that met with the mayor and myself after the meeting and discussed their problem with the recreation vehicle. And they brought up several good points. The ordinance that was made in 08 says basically the whole section on it, the one that referring to what they were talking about, which you got noticed a lot, and they cannot park a recreation vehicle on a property, which states item 13.12, item B, recreation vehicles may not be parked or stored in any zone district, only when located on a fully enclosed permanent structure or completed screened from view by the solid wood fence, masonry screen, wall, deep dense hedges, or at least a 6-foot height fence. Temporary storage tents for recreation vehicle does not constitute a structure.
Sorry about that.
Okay. No recreation vehicle shall be used for living in, sleeping, housekeeping purpose, or any kind of this district. All right, so what it makes a little sense. Let's back up a bit now. We have a camper. Let's say a vehicle type camper. Camper in excellent shape. It pulls on your driveway and parks there. Okay, and now as the ordinance states now, that code, our police can come by and give you a citation because you're in violation, or you have a camper in there. Now, we can, go and have that put in, if the camper is sitting there and has proper village sticker on it, and have proper plates on it, and if you're seen from the street, then that camper should be allowed to stay there. All right, let's go to the next thing. You have a snowmobile. If you guys love to ride in the snow and everything, it's sitting on a trailer parked in the driveway. And by all rights, according to section B of section 1312, you can't have it parked on that trailer, even though it has the current plates and ready to roll out. You can't have it. The definition, it spells out what you can and can't have. And in definition, it says the purpose of this section, recreation vehicle shall include all trailer, camper, motorhome, those pop-up camper, trailers that transport snowmobiles, wave runners, ATV, etc. So basically, you can't park any type of recreation vehicle in your driveway, period. I looked this up, and this ordinance was redone and passed in 08, and it went under the zoning or ordinance at that time. Prior to that, I looked in the old book. Prior to that, the ordinance stated that a recreation vehicle could park in the driveway as long as it's on a hard surface and had current registration and had current village sticker. And it was permissible to have there. The same thing for a trailer. You have it parked in your driveway as long as it has a current license plate on it and has current registration. So, somewhere through the transmission of the changes from when we had it back, way back, and then in 08, they moved it to zoning, and it got turned around. Where they came from with it is in Falsport. Falsport does not allow any type of trucks at all. It's set outside, period. So, I would like to research it and go back to our original way. If you have a camper and you're parking in your driveway on a hard surface, mind it, and it has a current license plate, and it has a current village sticker on it, then there should be no problem with it. There's another way too, and here it says you can't put a screen on it. Well, you can. They do make covers for the campers and stuff. There are many of them I saw in town that has those covers on. As the mayor asked me at the meeting, and I stated, yes, I have a camper, and for some reason or another, if I bring that camper home from the campsite ground, and I will pull it in my driveway. And it will have the current license plate and the current sticker, because you can't go on an open highway without it. Well, you will get pulled out of state plates. So, I had, some way, somehow, it got turned around, and it got changed when they moved it in 08 to the zoning ordinance. And I'd like to go back and research it and put it back the way we had it originally. That's we had no problem with it for 15, 14 years. I know Mr. Lizzotti, senior and myself, was out there doing ortho enforcement. Yeah, the only thing we had was people parking it on stone driveway, which they received a citation for that, but it was on a hard surface. There was no problem. Hard surface is defined as asphalt or concrete, not a couple bricks under covers. That's, we did promise, I promised, that the resident, I will bring it up to the committee and see what the overall board here would like me to do. Go back and research it more, bring it back to you, see if we can change it and read it like it was, or how you guys want me. I can change it around a couple ways, spell it out, make it a lot tougher, but go with the weight size, the total size limited to the asphalt structure, get a special time. But I think the problem is that a couple of neighbors in that general area, and I don't remember all the addresses, doesn't like a camper sitting in the guy's driveway. So we do have a problem, and I would like to research it and bring something back to you guys.
Trustee Burgess.
Trustee Myers, I just have a question, well, I have a few questions. First question I have, since 2008, how many people have complained about that other than this one time?
For the code enforcement officer, she goes out every year, she sends out letters to anybody that violates this to us, and then they receive a citation that they don't work.
No, I said, how many people have, I saw that they complained last week, how many other than last week, how many over the past, is there any way of knowing how many people actually complained about that ordinance? It was updated in 2008 for a reason. Now we're gonna go back prior to that for how many people, that's what I just wondered, is there a lot of people that came and said, I have campus and I want to bring it back?
I can't answer that, trustee, because I was not here in 2008.
No,
I
I'm just
left
asking.
in 2003.
I understand, I'm just saying, I'm just wondering how many people actually complained about it, because it was written for a reason. I mean, if you're gonna have, if you're gonna limit it to campus, post one on a semi, it's registered. You drive
A semi is
over,
not considered a campus.
but it's, you get 40 feet.
A semi is not considered a
Can't park,
campus.
can't park.
No, I mean, you can't park, you
What
want
do
to
you
put your home,
What do you say, registration and tags and everything on semi?
but your home,
Oh,
but you still home on the trailer. Even with a camp, it's still considered a trailer. I mean, why would they want to bring their, even if they would just want to bring their rig?
Once again, as I stated, I reword this need to make it a lot tougher and spelled out, that when there does say, recreation travel, and somebody doesn't pull
I mean, commercial, but I'm just looking at it, I mean, it was written for a reason, I mean, you know, I don't know, people, maybe we should ask or whatever, people want, I think it was written because a lot of people said they didn't want to have, I mean, cameras sitting at home, sitting on blocks or whatever the case may be, after a while, they brought them home because they couldn't use them anymore, and, you know, it just started looking bad. I'm just guessing that was the reason why.
Well, there's other ordinances out there that, if you bring your camper home, you set it up on blocks, you can receive a nuisance violation where the camper is deteriorating on the property too. There's several other ones, there's ordinances that we can use on several other things. But the biggest thing there is that if that camper is in such a condition or state, and it doesn't have the current registration or little sticker on it, then you have a big problem there.
But are we allowed to go on a person's property and look behind that camper and see if they have plates on it? Or if it's covered up, are we allowed to take that cover off and look and see if that plate is on?
You're not allowed to remove the cover. If that cover placed, and Illinois requires you to have a license plate in the rear and the front. So,
On the camp, on the trailer, not the one that you drive, I'm talking about.
on any type of, on a trailer, it's only located in the back.
In the back, right, so how would we know we're not allowed to go on that property to see what that trailer has a proper license, if we're not allowed to go up there and see?
No, it's private property.
Okay.
I think you have two great ordinances to go back to your committee with, because I think we'll have some great debate when you come back before this board.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, we're gonna send this one back to the Ordinance Review Committee, and we'll make sure we schedule a little extra time to debrief them back. All right, and to number 7, cost savings initiatives. Do we have any updates or cost savings? We're working on a cost savings initiative, but it's to a policy. And again, this is kind of a rough draft. Pass around. Looking at currently, Sauk Village has a policy on travel, per diems, and right now, I'm sure Mohan was here because he's got the numbers on top of his head, but right now, if someone goes to a conference, if they travel for the village, get per diem like just over $100 per day, plus travel expense. I'm looking at, and again, this is something that came out from our auditors. It's one of the things that we're looking at. Again, the village is following the policy, but I'd like to make this policy a little bit more transparent and a lot more as a corporation is ran, not just as a policy that's one paragraph written in the policy book. But again, this is to establish a clear policy, to reimburse employees for reasonable business and travel expenses. It gets into scope. And again, it talks about if you're going to travel, first of all, be approved by your supervisor, and then it has to be approved either, we've got right now village manager or mayor. It has to come through, so you need two points of approval prior to going. Again, what it covers when it comes to meals, there's a spot in there for corporate cards, it's probably more for supervisors. It talks about receipts. Currently, we don't require receipts. You get a per diem, that's how much money you get. You can spend the money, and if you spend it, you spend it. If you don't, you don't. What this policy will set in place is a guideline. Again, this is just a rough draft. We don't have it here yet. Keep the amounts at where they're at currently. However, you have to provide receipts for what you spend. And if you don't spend the full amount that you earn per diem, you're going to be required to make sure you give it back to the village. Okay? So, talks about the timeliness and stuff being submitted, needs to be submitted within 30 days. Anything past 60 days, talks about that you have to give a written explanation for the delay, and the village may choose not to reimburse for that expense. Looked at the travel arrangements. Currently, we don't have any travel agencies or anyone that we're using. We don't have any, what we would call corporate hotels or corporate rates. But I think it's something that as a village, if we look at our travel schedules, where we're going to, if there are certain spots we go for conferences every year that we send employees to, we should start looking at some of those hotels and try to make sure we get a corporate rate so we get a better price. If there's any air travel, there's a policy there talking about getting your tickets in advance. We know if you wait till the last minute, usually they're more expensive. Looking at ground transportation, if an employee has to go somewhere, taxi, limo, we'll talk about rental cars. There is an important thing here I want to make sure everyone realizes that the use of personal automobiles, personal vehicles shall not be used by the village for village purposes without the village prior written approval of the employee supervisor. If the personal vehicle is approved for village business purposes, the number of miles can be expensed, and that's just the actual miles driven. There's 3 examples there. When it comes to miles that you're driving, for example, if an employee lives 6 miles from here, and they leave to their house to go downtown for a meeting, and then they drive back, they can claim the miles that they drove minus 12 miles. Anything over and above their normal use for their commute times to go back and forth to work. So there's 3 examples gives you there. Here we talk about lodging, and I think it's important that we start working with some of these hotels on ones that we use constantly, or we see a trend that we're using them every year. Start setting up corporate rates so we get the lowest cost. We talk about meals. The meals will be included when they're traveling, plus tax and tips. Again, when they're traveling for the village, but there's things that won't be reimbursed. You know, breakfast on the same day of departure, unless it's before 7 o'clock a.m. Dinner on the day of return. I mean, those things are not to be covered. Lavish or expenditures, you know, and again, there's definitions by the IRS, what should be acceptable, what's not. Talk about spousal travel, if your spouse is going to go with you, especially for the employee, is the village going to cover it. Again, there has to be approval, 2 sets of approvals. First of all, it has to come from the supervisor of the department, and the second it has to come through the mayor's office. We talk about prohibited expenses that we're not going to approve. Illegal or immoral items. We're not going to pay for someone's tickets while they're traveling for the village. If you're speeding, you get a ticket, it's on your own. Talking about conduct and ethics. We're not going to pay for personal entertainment, which is movies, sporting events, etc. Office equipment, luggage, home internet fees, credit, money orders, credit card or gift cards. That stuff is not to be included. Again, we talk about receipts. Receipts are going to be, again, coming to the village board. I would say it needs to be approved, but receipts will be needed for anything over $10. And again, we talked about the timeliness of submittal. And then on the back is kind of a example of an expense report. It's can all be done electronically. There's added formulas and macros inside this, where it makes it very easy for the employees to use. And we talk about the personal mileage. There's a spot there for if you have any special groups or these special type of meals. And right down the line, I've got it in as 0.55 cents a mile, but our policy says, and I didn't have time to go see what the local IRS standards is, but our policy currently says whatever the local IRS policy is. So take some time to review this. We can bring it back on the agenda in 2 weeks. Make your notes if you have any questions, stop by and talk. We can make some changes to this. Again, this is a rough draft. But again, this is one way, rather than just giving someone $100 or plus per day, it gives us a little bit more, again, transparency, gives us a little bit more when it comes to what we're spending, how much we're spending, and again, running it more like a corporation, the way it should be ran. And again, when we have our audits, we'll have all this information, we'll have the receipts of what's being spent. Anyone comes in and says, somebody went and spent this much money, and the village paid for it, what we get, how much did they spend? You'll know, it breaks down how much they spent for breakfast, how much they spent for lunch, how much they spent for dinner. Again, and all those receipts will be required. So, read through it. We've been working on it for a few weeks now, but I'm sure, if you find any typos, you probably will. If you find punctuations that's not correct, you probably will, because I've just been kind of, whenever I get a little extra chance, I go back in there and add something to it, and I've been moving things around, so it may not be in the correct order. Some things may be removed or situated in different orders, so I'll read it for the board. Any questions? So in 2 weeks, we'll make sure it's on the agenda, we'll bring it back to the village board. I'm sure I'll probably make some more changes, and whatever changes you see you want to bring to me, you come back with us a little bit more. Right. Anyone else? Cost savings initiative, anyone else have anything you want to present to the board tonight? Trustee Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did talk to a few developers that are interested in bringing some businesses to Sauk Village, so just to let you know where I am with that. I've been talking to people and get the their calendar so that I can get with you and have an opportunity that you and them can talk. I'll give you a list of about 3 people that I've been talking to that's interested in doing some great things in Sauk Village.
Thank you very much. Okay. Nothing else? No other updates? All right, move to public comment. All questions or comments are directed to the mayor. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to comment on topics of their choice. Each speaker will be allowed 1 opportunity to speak. If you have anything, please come to the podium.
Rose Langston. I have a problem with allowing them to put temporary signs up on the median on 223rd Street. I remember how unsightly it was. It took us a long time to get rid of it. I don't know how many people have asked the trustee Morton about that. It took a lot of people a lot of time to get rid of it. It's unsightly. Now our public works crew is downsized. And how many times are we going to have them stop, get off their vehicle when they're mowing, take down and put up the signs? I really think that you should leave well enough alone. It looks nice now. They used to walk dogs there. They used to put signs there. Just leave it alone. My other concern is, I don't know if there's been a change on who's responsible for the Sauk Talk. For the past few months, I have not heard an announcement when it was due. And I happen to think last week that it's usually the last Friday. However, I got my article out by last Friday. It was late. I don't know if we're still going to have the Sauk Talk. Did we make a change on who is responsible for it? That's it.
Just to respond, there has not been a change. There has not been an announcement for the past couple of times. Last week there was not, or 2 weeks ago when we had our last meeting, there was not an announcement because of the 5th Tuesday, and I didn't make that announcement, and I apologize. schedule. The schedule says the Sauk Talk is coming out every other month. The Sauk Talk articles are due the Friday before the month starts. So with that schedule, anybody who submits an article will know when to submit it. However, I give the announcement as a reminder. I did not do that because when I looked at the calendar, I forgot about the day. There has been no change. Thank you for your article. Thank you for everybody else who submitted their articles. And I do have on here right now, I was going to apologize for that. So just so you know, there has not been an announcement. I have made an announcement before everyone. This was the first time, and I do apologize.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Elder.
I'm sorry,
Elder.
we're talking?
Yes. I wasn't clear about, fireworks display that's going to be on the 5th of July? The 5th. Okay, my question was, is there a percentage of Section 8 that the Sauk Village accept into the village? And if so, have we met that percentage? There's a percentage of residents?
Is that your only question, or? There is no percentage for Sauk Village. We're a non-home rule community, so there's no.
It's 80%
No percentages.
county and it's 80%.
Correct. Yeah, we cannot ask a question when someone moves in if you're on Section 8. So yeah, it's that policy. It's not through the village. Section 8 is not.
Right, but villages do take percentage of it. I'm only going to put so many people in.
So,
No, I'm just asking because that happened in my last village. Okay?
Well, your last community may have been a home rule community.
I said my last village, and I went in Section 8 now, honestly. That was my reason for moving out.
There's no percentages or stopping Section 8 from the Sauk Village. Can we first of all get your name for the record? Eric DeFry. Thank you.
The removals of the trees that are have disease. Okay, one was removed from the front of the house and the stump was left. I would like to know if you all will remove it or not. Because I believe a year or so ago, you all removed some on the other side of the street and then the stumps are still there. And, we really don't want that look what's off village stumps. In my corner. I was wondering if we could remove the stumps and replace them with trees.
All right,
What's your plan?
all right, is that your only question?
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you that currently Public Works is going around cutting the trees down that we know that have issues with disease. The ashbourne, ashbourne. So we're going through and cutting those trees down. You'll find out that probably in the parkways, there's branches, there's stumps. Our whole entire area has already been identified through the state. So anyone can take that wood, they can use it for firewood. Public Works will probably come through later this year and pick up whatever's left. Now, when it comes to the stumps, that's the first time I've been asked that question, so I have to go back and find out what our plan is on removing stumps. So I don't have an answer for you tonight, but let me follow up with our Public Works Director and find out about the stumps. And then for the planting of the trees, I know that we're applying for some grant money to bring in some trees. We're also talking about working with the Boy Scouts, going back around through and planting trees because there are quite a few trees that are going to be cut down. I think Kevin said, the numbers are close to 400 trees that are coming down in Sauk Village. So there's a lot of trees that are going to be removed. Again, those are trees that have been here for probably 50 plus years. So we're also going to be reaching out to some of the nurseries to see if they have any trees, either they want to donate or that they have at a lower cost, that we can bring free trees back in. So, all right, thank you.
My name's Danny Hammond. I'd just like some board time next week for the board, if possible. Just have some questions, just pertaining to a couple different matters, and probably about it.
There's no floor time. Next week is a regular board meeting. Tonight's a committee meeting.
Maybe I'll start.
Yeah, probably best just catch some of the trustees and, yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Move to number 9, miscellaneous business comments from trustees. Go ahead and start. Okay, trustee Costa, you got the mic closest to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to state that we have a Right Start Outreach Youth Summer Camp program going. This is for children from the ages 11 to 18. It's free, and we had a registration last Saturday. We had 5 families show up. These flyers have been out. So we're trying again on the 17th. These are for children in the area. They will be doing sporting events. They will be doing field trips. They will be taking like tutor lessons for math, writing, and life skills. They'll also be taking culinary arts classes. This is a very good program. We need to fill it up. We have room for 120 children. So if you know anybody who has children from the ages of 11 and 18, this program will run Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So very good opportunity for us all. Also, we're going to still be taking sign-ups for the basketball program. If we have anybody that needs to call me or set up a time where they can meet with me. That's all I have.
Trustee Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. For the board, just want to bring a couple things out there. May 17th is the Sauk Village Beautification Committee's cleanup day. I'm pleasantly pleased driving around the municipality. I've seen a lot of people start picking up trash. I've seen a lot of businesses picking up trash. So I'm very, very happy about that. The letter that Sherry wrote is making an impact on our businesses. Not all, but the majority of them there definitely needing that warning. May 17th from 8 to noon behind the Village Hall, we're asking for volunteers to come out to help us on the public right-of-ways, cleaning up our signs that are in our community and stuff like that, welcome to Sauk Village signs. Again, just coming out to help clean up our village. During that week, I've reached out to the garbage company, and the garbage company has basically said, you know, you're still allowed to put one large item out. If you had something a little bit more, Mr. Potts said it would be okay as long as it doesn't get overwhelming. We're also going to have a recycling container there behind the Village Hall as well, so all electronics are to be brought to behind the Village Hall, computers, TVs, fax machines, anything that's electronic. It's free of charge, doesn't cost anything. Also, the Beautification Committee is also doing a community-wide annual yard sale. We're doing it again, basically across the street from Do It Best. Vendors and shoppers are always appreciated. A 10 by 10 space is for $15. You can make a check available to the Village of Sauk Village, and or you can pay cash. We're asking vendors to set up at 7 a.m. It's basically going to be from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Any questions you might have, you can contact myself here at the Village Hall, or you can contact the ladies up at the front office. On these forms, they should be back there. On the back side of these forms is the registration. So if you would fill out the registration form and submit that to us so we know exactly who is all coming out. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Jeff, he didn't mention it, but a company called USA Textiles will also be bringing a dumpster. They will be collecting old used clothes, blankets, curtains, stuff like that. They will have a dumpster back here as well. That's this month.
Trustee Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Go ahead. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that the Neighborhood Watch program was asked by you, the mayor, to get a piece informing the community on some things that they could do to make their home safer. And I did reach out to Trustee Williams and to collaborate along with her committee to put a piece out quickly and expeditiously. I asked for the opportunity to give it to you. I'm going to get a chance to look it over to see if it's okay. But if it is, we can go on to begin to disseminate that in the community. And that we're going to be having our next meeting this coming Monday at 7 o'clock at the fire station. And also I want to say I have had a wonderful and exciting time going all over this village, meeting with the residents again, talking to them, taking pictures for our video that we shot off of Happy by For Real. We went to the school board meeting and had an excellent time over there, and the businesses in the village taking pictures with the owners and entrepreneurs, and people are just coming together, and it's just been a collaborative effort to have a little joy in Sauk Village and to show the world our version of happy. And we look forward to bringing that video to the public very soon. Also, the Human Relations Commission will be having their diversity workshop on May the 23rd. We have an awesome speaker, and this is this area of expertise where he hosts these diversity workshops. We have other commissioners that's here tonight that can answer questions. We had our meeting on last night at the Village Hall, and we are expecting to have a great turnout for this workshop. It's a follow-up to our diversity dinner, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Myers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple items tonight. First off, unfortunately, I have to announce that one of our firefighters that been with us many years, been around, Jim Couch, died early Sunday morning. The services will be at State Memorial, Wednesday from 2 to 8, and Thursday, Thursday services will be at 11 o'clock at that State Memorial Hospital. Jim started his career in fire service in 68 when he was a fire cadet, and he went to be one of the first 2 or 3 fire cadets in the state of Illinois that received his firefighter 2 in 86, and then he went on working until received the rank of lieutenant. He left us, went over to Steger, and then he took a full-time position at Indiana Harbor. So Indiana Harbor, Sauk Village and Steger Fire Department is giving him a fire department funeral. The next item is that the my board ordinance review will meet, and we'll discuss these 2 ordinances that we have at length, and I will. You guys want me to bring it back to you to the next committee meeting, or you want me to send it to you through your mailboxes? How quick we want it? Next committee meeting, all right? On the answer to these orders. Next committee meeting. All right.
Next month.
Yeah, all next month.
I think we discussed it enough this month, don't you? That's fine, whatever.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Wayne?
Just wanted to piggyback on what I've already said about Sauk Talk. We are going to have Sauk Talk article available till this week Friday. So anybody who does have a Sauk Talk article, please feel free to get in by this week Friday. The public relations committee, like every day, 2 weeks ago, public relations committee will not be meeting tomorrow.
Trustee Burgess?
I don't have a report, Mr. Manager. I have a couple of questions. First question, I know I asked for an audience for this board for Steve Duffy? Is he going to,
We haven't got an answer back from him yet. There has been an email sent out to them and a call. I'll try again this week, try to see if we can get him lined up for a community.
okay, and then the next thing, because I'll be out of town for, when are we going to, are we started or we talked about the budget?
Budget currently is about 90% ready. Once you get the last 10% done, we'll sit down with the department heads and go through it. And then
3 weeks or so?
I would say at least, again, we've been putting most of our focus on getting it out.
Right, no, I'm just trying to,
So
for my schedule, because I'm just wondering if it's going to be.
I would hope that within the next 2-3 weeks,
Okay.
be able to come back to the board, at least, hopefully sit down with the department heads and go through it, because I want to, I know they were asking for some stuff that we're not gonna be able to give everything they want, so I'll make sure I sit down with them and see if there's anything more important that they need, or they can let go, to make sure they get what they need, so. Once I have my meetings with department heads, I'll get a draft out to the trustees, they can start to review it, and, we'll set up for some budget hearings.
Thank you.
Talking about the audits, we're very close. Let's write these numbers down. We finished 2009, 2010, 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, and we are very close to having 2012, 2013 wrapped up. I would say probably in the next week or two. I would hope that everything's wrapped up. They're asking questions, and we're answering them for them, which is good, because then now it'll put us right back on schedule where we need to be. And then a couple of weeks after we get that one done, we'll start into the audit that we're supposed to be in, which is 2013, 2014, so we'll get those years mixed up. So we've come a long ways. This last week, sent a letter out, like I said, I was going to the pension board through the attorney, and we contacted their attorney on the pension board and let them know that we've been asking for their audits. They have not been turning them in. We are going to no longer continue giving them money. We will hold their money until they present the audits like they're supposed to. So, and the other thing too is we've sent the information to Sheriff Dart's office in Cook County to inform him that they're refusing to give us the audits. So, all I can say is the last year and a half, the village has worked diligently and worked hard to get us back where it's supposed to be. They've had the same amount of time, and they have not done it. So, our part is done. We're still waiting for their part. Once we receive their audits, we'll submit those to the state to go along with the years that are supposed to. So, just so you know where we're at there. It's been a couple weeks since we had board meeting, so kind of give everyone a little update what's been going on. The week of April 20th through the 26th, we're kind of trying to work our way back this way a little bit. We saw Excellent opened up, so I say thank you for everyone that's been there to the restaurant. And they've done a lot of work. So we're excited about that restaurant opening up. On Thursday the 24th, hosted a meeting here with mayors. We co-hosted a meeting with State Representative Thaddeus Jones. And we had mayors from the whole entire South suburban area came. We had Representative Thaddeus Jones, Representative DeLuca, Representative L.G. Sims was here. We had State Senator Trotter, State Senator Harris. And like I said, we had mayors and village managers throughout the south suburbs. They came in, they were in between sessions, and they provided an update on what was happening in Springfield. And the mayors got to talk to the representatives and senators and let them know what our communities are facing and what we need help with. So we had a great meeting. We had a little brunch back there, so they had food, and it was a good day. It was a good informative day. On Friday the 25th, I got to attend Career Day over at Rickover Junior High, and got to go before 4 classes. And Trustee Myers was there also for the fire department. And I tell everyone, I think the children have had tougher questions than the parents. They were firing at me left and right, so, we've got, some young ones coming up. I can see them running for political office, but, I had a good day talking to the young kids, and, telling them what's happening, got to tell them what the mayor does, and then I got to pick their questions. So I have four groups. Look at the week of the 27th through May 3rd. It was in Springfield on April the 30th. And we had a great day in Springfield, started at the Illinois Municipal League, getting updates of what's before the House and the Senate, and what they're voting on, and how some of the bills and stuff that are out there, how they're going to affect municipalities. I had a great day there, and shot up to the Capitol building, and met with department heads from everything from DECA to the Labor Board to IEPA. There's a couple other ones we sat through. We talked about programs and stuff that they have for municipalities and how they can help our municipalities. So we came back with some great information from there also. And then ended the day in the governor's office, meeting with the governor. So governor was supposed to give us 15 minutes worth of time. He spent over an hour with mayors. We got to talk about some of the things that they're voting on, how it's affecting our municipalities, and there's some major things going on in Springfield right now. And everything from mandatory mine's going blank here for a second. Mandatory manning. There is pension reform things in Springfield right now. There is the temporary sales tax that the governor's trying to get to go to be the permanent sales tax. And one thing that as mayors we got to talk to the governor about was that when they went to the temporary sales tax, they dropped the amount of money that comes to a municipality from 10% down to 6%. So we've been taking only 6% of what's coming in, and as a municipality, we're supposed to be getting 10%. As mayors, we made very clear to the governor that we need that 10% back. To kind of give you an idea how much money we're losing. To go from 6% to 10%, that's $65 per capita. That would increase what we're getting here in the village. That would bring us up an additional $650,000 based off of 10,000 residents. And we know we have over 10,000 residents in Sauk Village. So we've been losing out all these years by that much money. So we had some good conversations. And of course, everyone, it was kind of a joke, I guess you could say. It was cheap, tongue in cheek, but it's an election year. So every time someone said they wanted something or needed something, there's always someone there saying, I think we can do it for you. And, it's an election year. So, but again, we're going to take advantage of it. It's an election year. So we're going to make sure we ask for it. Got to meet with, again, a lot of people down in Springfield. Got to meet with our lobbyists. Got to go over some of the things that Sauk Village really need. And again, meeting with some of our state representatives while we're down there also. So we had a great day in Springfield. On Friday, I got to meet with some contractors about some potential developments and stuff that are happening, that could happen here in Sauk Village. So we'll meet with them. And then in the day on Friday with a surprise retirement party for school superintendent Outright Lady. So I was going to be missed, but we wish him the best. And he's going to be around for a little bit longer as school superintendent. And like I say, he's not going too far. He just lives like something like 13 miles away. So he'll still be around. The Trustee Myers mentioned how we had a loss here in Sauk Village. And our sympathy and condolences go out to the Couch family. And I appreciate you giving all the arrangements, the times and stuff. And then lastly, put me on the agenda for 2 weeks from tonight that, talking about the pension, but right now currently Sauk Village has one business with gaming machines. I want to bring before the village board about the revenue that's coming from those gaming machines. I would like to have that money moved right into the pension fund, because we're behind our pensions anyway. So in 2 weeks from now, bring it up and we'll take a look at it. And I don't know how much it is, how much we're getting, but anything can help to go into our pensions. So And that said, I think the next thing is adjournment, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.